What's up, everybody? This is Kenny Cummins here. I'm chilling with Kenny C. I'm excited to be joined with my next guest. This is his second appearance on the show. Singer songwriter out here in Kentucky. He has released multiple songs this year already, and I'm glad to have him back. I'm joined with Lance Rogers. He's with me right now. How's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Good to be back on here. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you back on, man. And man, you definitely have been very busy since the last we spoke. And I did meet you for the first time. I met you, I think maybe it was a little over a year ago. I don't remember the location, the place, but it was at Lexington. It must have been at a hotel somewhere or something like that. It was probably around downtownish in Lexington. Uh, so that was my first time meeting you, and it was good to meet you and having this chat and have you back on. I definitely want to chat with you about these songs that you've put out
Sure.
this year. So it's more of a recap of of the songs you put out so far. And I want to start off with High and Dry. It's very self-explanatory. I think we've all heard that phrase or that phrase has been used. Uh, Talk a little bit about how this song came about.
That song development on how it came about. Uh, there was a friend of mine that was on. He was on Facebook one night, and he was kind of in the mood to write a song. He's not really a songwriter, but he's a very creative person. He's like a photographer and organizer and things like that. He got on one night. This was, I want to say, right before the pandemic, or maybe during. I can't remember exactly. Maybe before. Anyway, he gets on there and he's like, "Hey, I got an idea for a song," and he goes ahead and starts writing it right there. He had the first few lines, um, and then another guy gets on there and he puts some lines on there, and I hop in there. I'm like, "Hey, I want to jump in here," and the three of us, ended up, going back and forth on this, writing it right on Facebook, and then we decided to make a group, a messenger, and we all hopped on there and just finished the song up, and I came up with a melody. I sent them the video to it, and everybody liked it. And then I just recorded I did like the next day, I think it was, that I went out and did a little bit and posted it. And that's how it started. And it was, we kind of had this idea. It was Jonathan Newsom and Jeremy Stevenson, the other co-writers on it. And so we had this idea that eventually I would record it. And it was 3 years later, finally went to the studio, and I was just really pleased how it came out. Had Dwayne Lundy produced it, and it came out pretty good. So it's done pretty well out there. Got a lot of good feedback on it so far.
Yeah, I like the song, like the storytelling behind it as well. I think it's a definitely a relatable song, especially if people is counting on someone and they don't hold their end of the bargain. They don't show up with little to no explanation. Um, Being left high and dry is not a good feeling, especially when you put trust in people. Uh,
Yeah, and this song in particular, it's kind of like the musician's life. We get out and we hustle. We go out and we play gigs. And we make sacrifices, and it's hard for your significant other to deal with that if they're not on the same page. And that's kind of what the song's about. How the guy in the song, his significant other, was pretty much warning him that, like, hey, this chase for fame pretty much going to cost you this relationship that we got. And it related music to the other woman. So he's chasing after this other woman or this music career, and his his girl that he already has was basically warning him like, hey, unless you sell your soul to her and you feed her with your soul, like you're gonna lose her too. And so that's where she, at the beginning of the song, she leaves her keys on the stove, and he reminds her later on. He's like, "Don't forget, I got those keys," And so he's kind of wanting her back, but and that, in the bridge, he compares fame to, a lightning storm. How sometimes you look up and you can see the lightning. It looks very close. It looks like you could almost reach up and grab it, but it's better just to let it on, pass on by. And so that's the song in a nutshell.
Very, very unique analogies. When you think of the thunderstorms, like you trying to distance yourself from as humanly possible. And it's very, very loud, but you hear it loud and clear. So, I definitely like that song and
Thanks, man.
the wordplay with that. So let's get to The Place for Us. Definitely a total different tune compared to High and Dry. Talk about this song.
Yeah, I wrote this song for the real estate industry, and it's kind of weird how that developed. I went to a wedding. I was best man in my one of my oldest friends' wedding, and some of his friends flew in from all over the place, and a couple friends from Las Vegas came, and one of them owns a real estate company, and I got up and Stephen wanted me to sing a couple songs at the reception, kind of like impromptu, so I did, and this lady she liked some of my songs, and she approached me afterwards. She's like, "Let's keep in touch." She sent me a message later on. She's like, "I really, if you have any songs that would go good with some of my real estate videos, I'd be interested in like having some of your music on there." And so I thought about it, and I really didn't have anything that was going to, be suitable for a real estate video. And so I told her, I was like, "How about I just write a song?" And that's how I came up with that song, "The Place for Us." And just when it feels like I'm never going to find it, that's when I invested it. Or having to sell their other house and kind of hesitant to do that, but all of a sudden it's like they find what they've been looking for the whole time.
Awesome, man. By the way, all these songs that we are discussing, they all are available on the streaming platforms. I'm joined with singer-songwriter Lance Rogers on the phone. Let's talk about the song Change. Talk about this one.
Change is a song that I wrote kind of in a dark period of my life. I had gone through a lot, relationship wise, and when a relationship ends, um, I shouldn't say ends completely, but it changes. You got two people that have changed, and you try to change each other, but ultimately it's like you got to go separate ways, and that's what that song kind of describes. But it was a real life thing for me, and it's always nerve wracking putting that kind of stuff out there, just because it's so personal. But I also feel like it is something that we all can relate to on one level or another. Like especially when you have a relationship that is a couple decades old, you're gonna have times that are good and bad, and sometimes you just grow apart, and it's okay.
Absolutely, man. Definitely going through some things. Um, and I've always wondered the process of a songwriter that is willing to put out a song like this, very, very personal. Um, but music does have a way of connecting with people, and who knows, you put the song out, and it's very relatable. People can feel like, man, I went through similar things. Like, thank you for sharing that. Puts a lot in perspective. Um, so this is definitely one of the most personal songs I've ever heard from you. Um, and you definitely are always upbeat, having fun, very clever with the songwriting, things like that. So yeah, this is definitely a deep song that you put out for change. You know, puts a lot into perspective. So
Thank you so much.
appreciate you, man. Let's talk lipstick. I noticed the album cover. It's got a throwback. Um, is that those your parents in that album cover for lipstick?
It's my grandparents. Yeah,
Grandparents.
they were both from Bell County. I was very close to my grandfather. I never got to meet my grandmother. She passed away when I was a baby, but she got to hold me a couple times, you know. And but my grandpa always talked very highly of my grandmother, and kind of never got over her. You know, like he did get remarried, um, and they both passed away. You know, he was 97 when he died. Very hard worker. He worked in the coal mines when he was, a teenager. Um, had a very difficult life, very dirt poor. You know, the family, couldn't even afford to feed the kids at one point, and they had to all go, put the kids in an orphanage. And so it was very, very trialsome years for him. But he ended up fighting in World War II, got some skills over there. When he came back, he decided to do his own welding business and um, started that up. He and my grandmother had to leave Kentucky suddenly and got tangled up with the Ball brothers out there in Bell County, who I guess they're the infamous Ball brothers that kind of ran the town. And they essentially put a hit out on them because they got tangled up one time, and my grandpa put one up in the hospital, and so they had to get out, and they never came back. went to Ohio, and but he had a very colorful life. He and my grandmother were, soulmates, and they did very well together. And I hated that, she passed away of heart disease, and it's back. She had to go under surgery and didn't make it out, and it was just very difficult for him after that. But he and I were very close. He and I are very similar as far as what the family tells me, and in looks and personality. Like my grandpa he always like, as I was growing up, he's like, "You remind me of me when I was your age." And so I figured on this song, Lipstick, that picture of my grandmother, they look great, and she had that bright lipstick on, even though it's a black and white picture. You can tell it's like probably bright red. But I wanted to put that as the picture just to keep that. It's always out there now.
Yeah, definitely one of the rare photos, especially with family. Um, you just look back and reflect on the elderly in the family. Grandma and grandpa lived a very lengthy life, seen multiple generations, such as yourself, and um, definitely this is a very thoughtful tribute, I could say, to them. Inspiration behind the song. Um, so it's a heart. It's definitely a classy gesture on your part. In remembrance of your grandparents.
Thanks,
So
man.
so it's
Yeah, the
that.
song was like it was kind of written, in a modern sense, but that one part that I threw in there about Grandpa saying that pretty much don't sweat the small stuff, and slow things down every once in a while, and don't be in a rush to get someplace when it's sometimes it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And sometimes the best moments, we can stress out about being late for something, and we have a person right there next to us that we love, they love us, and it's like, why stress each other out? Why not just enjoy the moment? And that's kind of what that song I wanted it to reflect. Just really really slowing down, not taking things too seriously, but really take those moments that you got with the people you love. There are no guarantees, man. There's really no guarantees in any of this. Like how tomorrow, even right now, will end up. Just but there's always something to be grateful for, and usually it's in people, and the situation that you find yourself in sometimes. And it can be, we all have different backgrounds and different, scenarios that play out in our lives, but there's always a place that you can look and find something to be grateful over. And that's kind of that song, Lipstick.
Well said, man. Well said. So let's get to Breathe for Two. Talk about this particular song.
Breathe for Two is kind of a love song. It was funny because one night I left this bar. I'd played some music, and I see this street light that was flickering, and I wondered in the back of my mind. I was like, I wonder what that is saying in Morse code. And the more I thought about it, I was like, I'm going to put that down in my notes because I know I want to use that in a song one day. And that's the opening line and the ending line. I was watching a lot of Tarantino like movies, and kind of like his style, which I really liked. I liked how he can create anxiety in his movies very simply with some weird camera angles, or just like momentum shifts and lighting and stuff like that. And I wanted to reflect something like that in a song. And so there's a couple different characters in this song. One of them, the opening character is kind of like he's trying to find his way and wondering what it all means and where he's headed. And then all of a sudden you get this other character introduced, and you realize that they're both in bad shape, but they're helping each other out. It's like I'll breathe you breathe for me, I'll breathe for you. It's kind of like there's an old scripture that says like two's better than one, because if one falls down, it can help the other one up. And it's a very simple idea, but that's kind of the sense of that song. It's like when one of them is feels like they can't go on and don't want to go on, somebody's there to be like, we got this. We're gonna ride this out, and everything's gonna be all right. And even if you feel like you can't breathe or you don't want to breathe anymore, I'm gonna take care of you. And I know one day that I'm gonna need you to take care of me. It's one of those relationship songs. If you notice at the very end, there is Morse code that I put in the song. And that was kind of a risk because how many other songs you hear that are like that? And it was like it wasn't just like a blurb. It was just like, it was a 40-second Morse code message. And I won't say exactly what the message is, because I kind of hope somebody tries to figure it out. And I don't want to ruin that surprise for anybody. But I did get that message from my buddy Robbie Teasdale. His sister took her life years ago. She was a poet and an artist, and they were both raised in South Africa, and was around a very violent situation in the town. Mm-hmm. But it kind of took a toll on them both. But when I asked Robbie, I was like, he came to one of my shows, and I was telling him about the Morse code line. And it just so happened that he brought in that night, and for some reason it was like in this pouch that he wore around his neck, a little Morse code decoder. And it just hit me all of a sudden. I was like, man, I said, if you could put one phrase, Morse code phrase, into one of my songs, what would it be? And he almost knew immediately. He sent me this message. It's a segment of one of his sister's poems, and it's kind of a very meaningful message. But I wanted to put that in the song because he's been a friend of mine. He's an artist. He's gone through a lot. He's very open about his struggles mentally, and he keeps his sister's spirit alive by in all his pottery that he makes. He stamps a turtle in there, so she's like Turtle, and that's how he and I met, because I got this turtle tattoo on my forearm. He's got one too, and I was buying some pottery from him randomly. We became friends ever since, and so it's kind of that. That message in the song may seem kind of odd to somebody, but I feel like I wanted to put it in there because it's a very meaningful message that we all need to hear it. And it's a good reminder. So if anybody's hearing this, sit down, take 15, 20 minutes and figure out that Morse code message and make a post about it. And I didn't tell anybody this, but the first person to do that, I've got something pretty special I'm going to give them.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to put it out there. I kind of wanted to see if it would happen organically. Somebody would be curious. I've had people ask, but nobody's taken the time to figure it out. And whoever does that is going to be pretty special in my book. So they're going to get a pretty special prize.
Definitely gotta pay attention, for sure. I'm pretty sure people are gonna be glued to that song. So go check that one out. And now your latest release, which just came out less than a week ago, I shouldn't be driving right now. So that seems like self-explanatory, given the circumstances. But talk about the story behind this particular track.
This song, I Shouldn't Be Driving Right Now, I wrote this with a guy named Philip David Harris. When I first started writing music, I reached out to him because I didn't know if it was any good or not. Honestly, I was just like, I was green. I didn't know how to put a song together, but he kind of took me under his wing. He was a national songwriter and has multiple songs published and a lot of cuts. But I reached out to him, on Instagram, and I was like, "Hey man, I see you're a professional songwriter. I got some songs. I just don't know if they're any good." He's like, "Well, shoot one my way and I'll tell you." So he listens to it and gets right back with me. It kind of shocks me. But he's like, "Man, you got some raw talent." He's like, let's try to write a few songs together. So we wrote 2 songs that same day. And then I want to say I Shouldn't Be Driving Right Now was one that we wrote maybe like a month after I had first met him. We started writing songs together. But this song is about not crying and driving, because it's just as dangerous as drinking and driving sometimes, because you can't see because you're crying too hard. So that's what this song's about. It's about heartbreak. The metaphor was, the car accident that happens, and he's hitchhiking for a while, and then he gets a new vehicle, and then he's like just trying to manage his way through. But yeah, the song it's stripped down. I had Dwayne King produced several songs for me. He produced an entire EP, which I got a few more songs coming up from that EP that are going to be dropped soon. But I wanted it to be stripped down, just me and my guitar. There's a few songs coming out that have some harmonica on there, but I hope everybody liked it, because it's one of those songs that, it's fun to play with a full band too. But just the stripped down version kind of gives a new feel.
Well said, man. So these are all the songs that are available on the streaming platforms. And since I do have you on the phone here, I've played High and Dry a while back. I'm going to be playing all these songs throughout the year. And the next song I'm going to play is actually next Monday, on the day before 4th of July. I'm going to play The Place for Us. I'm literally going to play all these songs in the exact order of the songs that came out. So I'll be playing the place for us next Monday on the day before 4th of July. So I've been playing your music,
Great.
man. It's awesome stuff.
I appreciate that, Kenny. I've got 2 songs that are ready to go as well. In the next month or 2, I'll have 2 more songs out. One's called Green Empire, and then the other one is called Lost to You. But those are fully produced and ready to go. And but I appreciate you, man, spreading the word and putting my music out there, and it means a lot to me. I do really highly appreciate it. And keep up the good work, man.
Appreciate you, man. And before I let you go, man, I know you got some shows coming up. So let the people know, where can they find you.
The best way to find me, to keep up with my schedule and stuff, is usually Instagram. I'll post like once a month where I'm going to be. I am leaving tomorrow morning to go to Maryland. I'm playing a music festival out there called Cannon Fire Music Festival, and so I'm looking forward to that. It's with a kid named Jake Cohn, who's kind of blowing up right now. Brennan Edwards, Chris Hunt Jr. I mean, and the list goes on and on. Just like some kind of like kids that are kind of coming up, the next generation songwriters and singers, and I'm kind of an old timer in there, but it's going to be fun. It's a long drive. It's an 8-hour drive over there, and I'm going to play a 30-minute set, but I'm going to hang out and have some fun. And then after that, where am I going? I'm going to be at the end of the month. I know I'm heading to Ohio. I'm doing a private show, and I've got a show coming up in Somerset, Kentucky, a place called the Mole Hole. It's downtown. And there's one other show. Can't remember what it is, though. But you'll be able to see my schedule on Instagram, Lance Rogers. And then whoever's listening to this, go ahead and get on Spotify and press that follow button, because it means a lot. Because the more followers you get on there, the larger your footprint is, and they throw your songs out to a wider audience. So any little bit helps.
Absolutely, man. It was great to chat with you. Thank you so much for your time. Shout out to you on your music and your contributions to the scene. If you're in the Maryland area, go check him out. And Somerset, Kentucky, go check him out as well. He'll keep you posted on his Instagram, and stay in touch with Lance. And he's got more songs on the way, and he's got an EP on the way as well. Thanks again for your time, Lance. Continue success and everything, and appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Kenny. You have a great night, man.
All right, too. You too.